Chapter 467, The Tiger is Too Proud, Imperial Uncle, please don't. If you don't want me anymore, it'll end up on the streets, so pitiful. Chu Jinling's eyes teared up, portraying the image of a pitiable soul abandoned by everyone. Ninth Prince, show some dignity. What if in the future, Sisi leads her troops to victory, gets honored as a general, and then looks down on you? Su Yingxue teased him. That won't happen. Sisi only has eyes for me. Chu Jinling pouted and said that Lin Sisi wouldn't look down on him, but his anxiety propelled him out of the prince's mansion. Hey, Ninth Prince, there's still grass on your head. Su Yingxue kindly pointed out as Chu Jinling hastily removed the grass while running. Seeing Su Yingxue smile, Chu Yihan couldn't resist pinching her cheeks. Are you happy now? Last night, she ditched his shadow guards and took that assassin with her for an unknown purpose. He asked her, but she didn't tell him. Su Yingxue's face puffed up when Chu Yihan pinched her. Chu Yihan was tall, and she was forced to stand on her tiptoes to look up at him. If I'm unhappy, do one have to cry in front of His Highness? Chu Yihan smiled. Her comical appearance was much better than crying. Roar! On the fake mountain, a tiger's roar caught Su Yingxue's gaze. Su Yingxue looked up and saw Shanbao standing majestically on the fake mountain peak, looking at the two of them with dignity. Su Yingxue jumped up and greeted it. Shanbao! Look here! Shanbao turned its head to the side and sat on a flat ground, resting lazily. What's so good about a woman? Shanbao thought. His master was already the most good-looking person in the world. Shanbao. From afar, Chu Yihan called out softly, and Shanbao stood up. His huge body jumped down from the top of the mountain with a vigorous posture. Su Yingxue exclaimed, afraid that it would fall from such a high place and hurt itself. However, reality proved that it was a piece of cake for a tiger to jump over a fake mountain. When it landed, it was stable. Its pair of sharp claws grabbed the ground tightly, leaving deep marks on the ground. However, there was not a speck of dust on its shiny fur. Su Yingxue wanted to pounce on it and kiss it. However, as soon as she got close, Shanbao opened its bloody mouth and bared its fangs. Roar! Su Yingxue almost sent her head into its mouth. Chu Yihan pulled her back, and Su Yingxue touched her neck in shock. Oh my god, fortunately, her head was still here. Shanbao, who told you to scare her? Chu Yihan berated coldly. The arrogant white tiger instantly lowered its head. Roar! It was as if it was saying, I didn't scare her. She's just useless. Chu Yihan's eyes turned cold, and Shanbao immediately lay on the ground. It thought that Chu Yihan was a coward. Chu Yihan tamed Shanbao and brought Su Yingxue to pet it. Su Yingxue shook her head. No, I don't want to play with it anymore. This white tiger didn't like her, so it wasn't easy to get close to her. If you don't like it, 111 send him back to the border. Chu Yihan held Su Yingxue's hand and gently comforted her. Roar! Shanbao was dumbfounded. It stood up and walked behind Su Yingxue, blocking her path. Su Yingxue wanted to leave, so it simply lay on the ground and flipped its belly up. It looked like it was cheating. Su Yingxue was a little helpless. If you don't like to play with me, why are you blocking my way? Shanbao's body did not move. It licked its sharp claws and then, it turned its head away arrogantly. Chapter 468, Second Surgery. Su Yingxue looked at him and found it very amusing. The tiger raised by your highness indeed has a temper just like your highness. Chu Yihan glanced at Shanbao, denying this. However, Su Yingxue lowered her head and chuckled, recalling the time when she first met Chu Yihan. He would either snatch her jade pendant or touch her handkerchief. He would even be shamelessly arrogant. Now, this Shanbao didn't like her, but it was afraid of Chu Yihan's power, so it had no choice but to act coquettishly with her. Su Yingxue felt that to deal with this temperament, she had to be equally tsundere. Ignoring Shanbao, she stepped over it. Naturally, Chu Yihan also left with her. Shanbao immediately got up and licked his paws, with a hint of helplessness in its eyes. Women were hard to deal with. It made things difficult for me. Shanbao thought. Even though she was thinking about it, Su Yingxue did not visit the tiger garden to see the Shanbao these few days. Instead, she continued to focus on her medical skills. With profound medical expertise, one can only learn so much throughout their lifetime. She was lucky, but not very lucky. Since she had the title of a genius doctor, she could not ruin her mother's reputation. "Hey, how many rabbits are you going to waste?" The little ginseng looked at Su Yingxue. She was playing with the rabbit again, cutting it open with a knife and suturing it again to see if there were any other problems. Then, it was the same as before. However, little ginseng realized that Su Yingxue's improvement was that the rabbit she had cut and stitched up was alive. Not only could it eat grass, but it could also jump around after a while. Your incision and suturing technique have improved a lot. Seeing that Su Yingxue was ignoring her, the little ginseng started talking again. Su Yingxue was still focused. After she finished suturing the little rabbit's wound, she raised her hands and faced little ginseng. "After all, I've practiced so many times. I have to improve." Little ginseng suddenly felt that her image was very lofty. It originally wanted to pick up a little rabbit to feed the babies in the cave, but Su Yingxue carried the rabbit out. Saint Juan was here. This old man. Oh no, the dashing young master had a new medical breakthrough recently, so he brought it up to discuss with Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue was especially interested in medical matters. "Ever since your father got that disease, I've done some research. Although this kind of disease that causes things to grow inside the body is rare, it's not impossible. There's a worker in Red Brocade Lane who has the same disease. I touched his leg and found a big tumor." Saint Juan brought the patient over, and Su Yingxue and Saint Juan took a look at him. His symptoms were similar to Su Dingheng's. He was weak and fatigued as if he had been poisoned. However, when he checked his pulse, he could not find any other symptoms. There was a huge bulge on his right thigh. Saint Juan said, if this lump was treated with medicine, it wasn't impossible to dissolve it, and it could also save his life. But I felt that the surgical method was faster and could remove it more thoroughly. Su Yingxue's eyes darkened slightly. It's possible, but according to my father's appearance, he only recovered after taking a lot of supplements after the operation. It's difficult for ordinary people, especially workers like him, to receive such meticulous care. To put it bluntly, not everyone had Su Dingheng's fate. That's not difficult. I have money to support him. I just want to see the feasibility of the surgery. Saint Juan raised his eyebrows. Su Yingxue could not help but laugh. You are quite rich. Money isn't something you can bring with you when you're alive or dead. What's the point of keeping it? It's better to do something interesting to make people happy. Saint Juan's eyes lit up. Chapter 469. You've improved too much at this moment. Su Yingxue felt that this old man wasn't as annoying as before. At least, he lived more sensibly than many others and, at such an old age, he still maintained a passion for medicine. Su Yingxue and Saint Juan discussed the surgery with the worker's family. Saint Juan gave a stack of silver notes to the worker's family, declaring that he would support the worker for the rest of his life. The worker's family instantly felt grateful to him. The worker exclaimed excitedly, even if I didn't want to live, it would be worth it. Don't say that. Life is precious. We're here to treat and save lives, not to harm people, Yingxue comforted him. Before the operation, she explained the procedure to the worker. They would have to cut open his thigh, and remove the tumor, and there would be risks, but they would do their best. When the worker was lying on the operating table, it was not that he was not afraid. However, Yingxue gave him an anesthetic and he fell asleep numbly. He did not feel anything. Inside Yingxue's operating room, Saint Juan, wearing a mask and gloves, observed the fully enclosed environment. He clicked his tongue and sighed, "Looks like you've thoroughly researched surgical matters. You're well prepared. I've checked this anesthesia. It's even better than what I used on your father last time." While Yingxue focused on preoperative preparations, she responded, "I followed mother's ideas and set up this operating room. The lighting must be excellent, and there should be no dust to prevent infection. It must be as clean and sanitary as possible. Once we start the surgery, we must lock the door. Until the surgery is completed, no one is allowed inside. Otherwise, it could lead to the patient's wound getting infected. Currently, I can't produce the antibiotics mentioned in Mother's book, so I'll do my best to be responsible for the patient." "You're a skilled doctor." Saint Juan praised her with a smile. Yingxue asked him, "Are you ready? The surgery can begin now." Saint Juan nodded, locked the door, and assisted in the surgery. Observing Yingxue holding the surgery tool with steady and powerful hands, despite it being only her second operation, she appeared as skilled as a veteran with many years of experience. Throughout the entire operation, whether it was the removal or suturing of the wound, she displayed remarkable proficiency. After the surgery, Saint Juan praised her. "You've improved so much, I'm feeling inadequate." He was considered a genius in the field of medicine. However, he didn't think that he could do what Yingxue did. Yingxue started cleaning the surgical tools. "Mother left me this treasure, so I can't waste it. I must study hard. One recently obtained something new. Come and help me study it." She showed Saint Juan the syringe she had taken from Han Yuwen last time. Saint Juan seemed to have seen it before. "This thing can inject liquid into the human body. This worker has lost too much blood, so we can draw blood of the same type and inject it into his body." "Yes, I think so too." Yingxue nodded. Saint Juan was swift at finding a blood source. He drew and transfused blood seamlessly. If Long Shuli were still alive, she would witness that she had given birth to a surgical genius. Yingxue looked at the syringe, an idea forming. "If I can make more of this thing and mass-produce it, it will have a wide range of uses in the future." Saint Juan nodded. "I can help you study this thing. Even if I can't replicate it perfectly, I can produce something practical." Yingxue made up her mind. She planned to treat Saint Juan to lunch. After all, he had worked hard today. Chapter 470, Old Man. However, as soon as she left the house, Yihan was sitting in the courtyard. His expression was solemn, and upon seeing Saint Juan standing beside Yingxue, his demeanor became somewhat menacing. Yingxue had just completed surgery, and even though she had changed her clothes, there was still a hint of the lingering scent of blood. Yihan detected it and furrowed his brow. "What happened? Did Saint Juan force you into something again?" Yingxue was about to explain when Saint Juan exclaimed, "I didn't. Yihan, swear on your conscience, am one the kind of person who would do such things?" Yihan lacked a conscience, but confidently replied, "You are." Saint Juan was left speechless. He felt his dignity had been trampled upon. Seeing Saint Juan's frustration, Yingxue quickly pulled Yihan aside and explained, "Saint Juan found a patient with the same illness as my father. He has been a worker at Red Brocade Lane for many years, which brought him here. We just performed surgery on him together, and it went smoothly. The patient is now recovering. Surgery. Yihan hadn't witnessed it, but Yingxue explained that it was another method of treating and saving lives. It was risky but could save critically ill patients, like Su Dingheng and this worker. Yihan's eyes revealed a touch of admiration. You're quite courageous. Even ordinary doctors would hesitate when faced with such cases. Yingxue's eyes sparkled. Medicine is vast and profound, with endless possibilities for learning. If there's innovation, why doubt it? Why not embrace it? The ability to save more lives is what makes a doctor most proud. Yihan's lips curved up. Yingxue always managed to surprise him. His expression unconsciously softened, making him even more attractive. Saint Juan suddenly felt a pang of sourness. An older man chasing after young ladies and still being so old-fashioned. Disgusting. Such age. Who's of such age? Yihan, who was preparing lunch, came over, looking particularly curious. The man across from your miss is almost 30, still unmarried and alone. Isn't he an old bachelor? Saint Juan snorted indignantly. And he's still trying to woo your Mississippi. If he had married earlier, he could have been a father by now. Saint Juan snorted disdainfully. Yingxue's mouth twitched slightly. However, upon reflection, if Yihan had married early, his child would indeed be around 10. Yihan's face darkened. A 70-year-old man dares to call me old. Hey, where did I become 70? I'm a young man in my 20s. Young girl, what do you think? Saint Juan patted Xilan's head. Yihan, oblivious to Saint Juan's age, nodded. Young Master Juan is probably in his 20s. Yihan, your eyesight isn't great. If young Master Juan had married early, he would have a grandson your age now, Yingxue kindly reminded. Yihan opened her mouth in surprise. It could fit an egg. You. No. Are you already this old? What old? You guys are the old ones. Saint Juan stamped his feet. Oh. How exasperating. Saint Juan knew that Yihan was jealous of him being able to perform surgery with Yingxue, hence he was targeting him like this. So, he proudly took out the surgical tools that Yingxue had custom-made for him and intentionally flaunted them in front of Yihan. Some people, just because they're a few years younger, can't bully me. After all, not everyone has what that young girl prepared for me. Chapter 471, Pathless appears. Yihan gazed at Saint Juan flaunting his surgical tools and wanted to ask Yingxue why he didn't have one. Yingxue, sensing his intense gaze, quickly embraced him. This is for surgery, Your Highness. You don't need it. Yingxue turned around and bared her teeth at Saint Juan as if she were scolding him. What are you messing around? She had given him surgical tools to enhance their collaborative study of surgery, not for him to flaunt like this. She wanted to cut him with surgical tools. Yihan, upon hearing Yingxue's explanation, visibly softened. However, Saint Juan's provocation, Yihan extended his hand, and with a surge of internal energy, he immediately snapped a branch and sucked it over. He snapped his fingers, and the branch flew toward Saint Juan like a sharp knife, cutting off the chopsticks he was about to use to eat. Staring at the broken chopsticks, Saint Juan exclaimed, "Damn! I don't need to wield a knife. Anything in my hands can be a knife," Yihan stated lightly. He then sat down to have dinner with Yingxue. However, Saint Juan found it difficult to eat. This was too infuriating. He merely flaunted his surgical tools, and Yihan slapped him in the face. Damn! This Tsundere man was truly not to be underestimated. After Saint Yuan left, Yihan disclosed an important matter to Su Yingxue. Tomorrow at the palace banquet, the West Pavilion master of the Silver Moon Pavilion will be present. Imperial Brother will also discuss the details of the 4-year cooperation between the Silver Moon Pavilion and the Imperial Court. West Pavilion Master. Wu Dao. Su Yingxue blurted out. You know him. Yihan was slightly surprised. He hadn't informed Su Yingxue about this and hadn't introduced her to Wu Dao. I must go tomorrow. I'm afraid that Wu Dao and my mother have an even closer relationship, Su Yingxue explained. She had shared with Yihan about encountering Wu Dao in court and during surgery. Wu Dao's presence always made her uneasy, especially when he mentioned her mother. She hoped to learn more about her mother's whereabouts from him. Stay away from him, Yihan urged, his eyes revealing a sense of gravity. Having interacted with Wu Dao before, he knew the depth of his abilities. Despite the other person growing immensely powerful over the years, he was no match for Wu Dao. Wu Dao had almost overturned the 9 continents many years ago, and Yihan felt the need to caution Su Yingxue. Unable to resist, Su Yingxue added, but if there are clues about my mother's death on him, I want to give it a try. You must inform me, and let me accompany you. Yihan insisted. Su Yingxue stood on her tiptoes and kissed him on the chin. All right. She appreciated the way he involved her in every decision. After falling into the trap of the palace banquet last time, Su Yingxue inquired about the timing of this event. However, she hadn't expected it to be held at noon this time, with lively activities planned for the afternoon. As Su Yingxue entered the palace with Yilan, she began devising a plan for the upcoming events. Fortunately, nothing happened during the meal. She even enjoyed singing and dancing for a while. The dancers had graceful figures, and their dance steps were light and mesmerizing. Su Yingxue was admiring them when she suddenly saw a face that made her feel nauseous. Miss, isn't this the second young miss? When did she become a palace dancer? Yilan, standing beside Su Yingxue, frowned and whispered. Chapter 472, Su Yuru's final plan. Su Yingxue's complexion didn't look good. During this period, she had someone keep an eye on Su Yurou to prevent her from causing trouble. However, Su Yurou, like a ghost, always managed to appear where Su Yingxue was, causing chaos. After finishing her dance, she pretended to not secure the veil on her face properly, and a thin veil fell off. Han Yuwen then sarcastically remarked, "Isn't this the second young miss from Marquis Manor? How did she end up as a palace dancer?" Su Yingxue didn't respond. She intended to observe Su Yuru's actions and then decide how to deal with her. Surprisingly, Su Yurou remained silent. She picked up the veil and left quickly, wearing a pitiful expression. Su Yingxue didn't witness Su Yurou leaving the stage. As Su Yurou passed by Chu Qingye, he grabbed her wrist. Before exerting any force, he heard Su Yurou exclaim, "It hurts. How did you become like this?" Chu Qingye hadn't seen Su Yurou in a while and had almost forgotten about her. However, her dance on the stage had caught his attention, so he took a closer look. Seeing her appearing a bit weak, he intended to inquire about her condition. But when he grabbed her wrist, he realized she was shockingly thin. It felt like holding a handful of bones. Su Yuru's eyes were teary. She wanted to say something but hesitated. In a hoarse and pitiful voice, she called him, "Your Highness." This soft utterance made Chu Qingye's heart ache. "Ruer." He softly called her, wanting to ask about recent events. However, Su Yurou pulled her hand away and left swiftly. Watching her delicate figure recede, Chu Qingye felt as if she might never return. His heart was unexpectedly sorrowful. As Su Yurou left the main hall, she discreetly glanced back at Chu Qingye's dazed expression. Her reddened eyes overflowed with a hint of bitterness. What she couldn't have, Su Yingxue wouldn't have either. Su Yingxue wasn't concerned about their relationship. She was simply curious why Su Yurou didn't cause any trouble today. Perhaps she was plotting something. After being cautious for a while, Han Yuwen began to challenge her. Emperor, it's a rare occasion to have the teacher here today. Without some lively performances, I'm afraid the teacher will be disappointed. The teacher she referred to was the man sitting below the emperor, standing alongside Yihan. It was Wu Dao. Today, he still wore a black robe. Before the emperor, he didn't remove his hood, tightly covering his face. Chu Mingyuan cared about Wu Dao and politely asked, "Sir, would you like to watch some performances?" The palace dancers and court ladies each have their strengths. Wu Dao remained motionless. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. "I've heard that the great Qing dynasty's governance, both in culture and martial arts, is emulated by other nations. It is the leading force among the 4 countries. I also want to witness the talents of the great Qing dynasty." Wu Dao's words made people from other countries feel somewhat uncomfortable. For example, Han Yuwen, who governed the Qi state, had a flourishing culture. The number of foreigners coming to worship and learn was the highest. Wu Dao's words now irked her. However, as Wu Dao was her teacher, she didn't refute him. She merely glared at Su Yingxue privately. Su Yingxue paid no attention to her. She always disdained such provocations. However, with Wu Dao's statement, the people of the great Qing dynasty had to showcase their skills. Chu Mingyuan was prepared. He had people come on stage one after another, displaying outstanding performances in both martial arts and literature, earning praise from the envoys of various countries. Chapter 473. This maid is really powerful. Wu Dao remained silent the whole time. Observant individuals could tell that he wasn't very pleased with the performance Chu Mingyuan had prepared. The next act arranged by Chu Mingyuan was a woman's sword dance. A woman proficient in sword dancing must have a solid foundation in martial arts, making this noble lady quite impressive. Before she could finish her dance, Han Yuwen scoffed, "Emperor, these sword movements seem too frivolous. How about letting my maid perform for everyone?" Han Yuwen's impolite remarks displeased Chu Mingyuan, but Wu Dao spoke before him, saying, "Fine." Han Yuwen glanced at Chu Mingyuan again. Though his face turned ashen, he could only say, "If the dance is good, there will be a reward." Feng Qing stepped onto the stage with her sword. She cast a glance toward Su Yingxue as if wishing to pierce her with the blade. As Feng Qing started her sword dance, Su Yingxue realized that Han Yuwen was here to embarrass her, and she was the target. "Miss, this maid is truly formidable. She dances even better than the young lady who performed earlier." Shilan expressed some concern. This was a public humiliation for the great Qing dynasty. If their young misses couldn't outperform this maid, it would be embarrassing. After finishing her fruit, Su Yingxue chewed slowly. Feng Qing's martial arts are impressive. Strong and flexible, her dance looks much better than the previous young lattice. Su Yingxue glanced over. The young lady who performed the sword dance had lowered her head in embarrassment. After Feng Qing's performance, Wu Dao applauded and praised, "Excellent." Unable to find any flaws, Chu Mingyuan waved his hand and announced, "Reward." Feng Qing received her reward and arrogantly stepped down from the stage, wishing she could turn her arrogance into a tangible force to burn Su Yingxue. Returning to Han Yuwen's side, Feng Qing smirked coldly. "Princess, I heard the great Qing dynasty has many talented noble ladies, but today's display suggests otherwise. Not even one noble lady can perform a better sword dance." The young lady who had just performed felt uneasy, covering her face and crying softly. Besides Su Yingxue, Sisi clenched her fists angrily. Damn it, it's just a few sword moves. What's so great about it? Su Yingxue turned to her. Sisi, do you know how to wield a sword? How was the dance? Sisi was momentarily stunned. After thinking, she replied, I've only learned the sword for 3 years. I've always preferred knives and whips since I was young. The whip was given to Su Yingxue, but her sword skills were still commendable. Su Yingxue smirked. Before she could turn around, Yuwen taunted again. Princess thought all the noble ladies of the great Qing dynasty were like Miss Su, with superb medical skills and proficiency in both civil and military arts. It seems one overestimated you. Though she didn't know where Yuwen's sense of superiority came from, it repulsed her once again. Although the Empress was dissatisfied with Yuwen's mockery of the great Qing dynasty, she would only become more disgusted when Su Yingxue was mentioned. Miss Su is naturally outstanding. One wonder if this sword dance can surpass that of the eldest princess Maid. The Empress was supporting Yuwen. Su Yingxue took a bite of the apple and thought, Chu Mingyuan doesn't like the Empress and has treated her coldly for many years. She doesn't feel wrong at all. At a time like this, personal grudges were more important than the face of the country. After Su Yingxue finished eating, she took a sip of tea and stood up, walking towards the stage. Chapter 474. Fierce Su Yingxue. She specifically addressed the Empress, Your Majesty, Emperor, the performance of my sword dance may not be very captivating. However, if Your Majesty and the Silver Moon Pavilion Master don't mind, I'm willing to perform. Excellent. I want to see what talents Miss Su possesses beyond her medical skills. Yuwen eagerly chimed in. While she was overstepping her bounds, Chu Mingyuan remained silent when he noticed Wu Dao didn't object, indicating his tacit approval of Yuwen's actions. Chu Mingyuan had some matters to discuss with Wu Dao, so he chose to endure the situation. Su Yingxue stood on the stage, and upon catching Chu Yihan's glance, she playfully winked at him before retrieving the red jade shop whip from her waist. Having been taught by Chu Yihan a few times, Su Yingxue had become much more proficient in the whip technique. As the performance began, she directly targeted Yuwen's seat with her whip. Yuwen did not expect Su Yingxue to hit her in public, so she naturally did not dodge. Su Yingxue's whip struck her desk, and the dishes and cups in front of her shattered on the floor. The fragments flew in all directions, narrowly avoiding scratching her face. Ah! She exclaimed, and Feng Qing and Yundan quickly shielded her. However, it was to no avail. Su Yingxue's whip became more ferocious, and her entire seating area was affected. She had no means of escape. Due to her pride, her seat was positioned close to the grandstand and was solitary. So, Su Yingxue wouldn't harm others, yet it left Yuwen with no escape. Behind her sat Qin Mayan, who was thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. Qin Mayan's eyes gleamed, and his drinking motions became more boisterous. Su Yingxue truly has a temper. Yuwen's provocation was tantamount to courting death. Hearing Yuwen's screams, Wei Ju sighed beside Qin Mayan. Her temper is too much. I'm afraid there aren't many men in the Great Wei dynasty who can endure it, right? While the people of the Great Wei dynasty were known for their boldness, where women could practice martial arts and archery just like men, and societal norms were less restrictive, Su Yingxue's act of going on stage to strike someone without a word, and doing it in front of everyone, was excessively audacious. Su Yingxue, you court death. How dare you humiliate me like this? Before Yuwen could finish her threatening words, Su Yingxue had already swung her long whip, sweeping away her table and pulling it down to the ground with a crash. Princess! Yundan shielded Yuwen with her body, preventing her from getting hurt. On the other hand, Qing was ready to charge onto the stage and confront Yingxue. Yingxue, you've gone too far. How dare you openly assault the princess? What assault? This is a performance. After finishing her whip dance, Yingxue coiled the red jade soft whip around her hand, her eyes innocent. The princess wanted to see my performance. Why? Must I dance with a sword just like you? Is my whip not good enough? Excellent. Yihan applauded. As soon as he praised her, the crowd joined in, applauding and commending Yingxue for her captivating whip dance. Yingxue tilted her head. See, everyone agrees. Yingxue even shouted to Wu Dao, Silver Moon Pavilion Master, do you think my whip dance is good? No one could see Wu Dao's face, but they could distinctly hear his deep and raspy voice. Good. Teacher. Qing was indignant. It was one thing if the people of the great Qing dynasty were biased, but why was even their teacher leaning towards Yingxue? Teacher, she's intentionally bullying me. Yuwen gritted her teeth, looking at Wu Dao, hoping he would intervene. Chapter 475, Lin Sisi Revenge for Yourself. However, Wu Dao pondered for a long time and only said, I'm not as good as you. Yuwen seemed to have suffered a disaster. The hatred on her face was like a burning anger. Yingxue. Eldest princess, does our great Qing dynasty have many talents? This unique skill of mine is barely acceptable, right? Yingxue asked humbly. The more humble she appeared, the more she exuded a sense of mockery. Yuwen grew even angrier. Yingxue, one will reward you handsomely. In any case, seeing that Yingxue had one face for the great Qing dynasty, Yuan also gave her face. Yingxue received her reward and turned around to look at Yuwen. She then thought of Lin Sisi and suggested to Yuan, Emperor, the eldest princess thinks that all the noble ladies in our country are too weak to stand up to the wind, so she asked her maid to perform. Actually, among the noble ladies, many are better at sword dancing than the eldest princess Maid. Why don't we let them spar and let everyone see that even the women of our great Qing dynasty are not inferior to men? This suggestion was very good. Not only could it save face, but it could also slap Yuwen's face. Yuan immediately said, if there is a noble girl who can dance with a knife and sword and spar with the princess Maid, regardless of whether she wins or loses, I will reward her heavily. Yingxue got off the stage and winked at Lin Sisi. Lin Sisi's heart jumped. I can one. Yingxue walked in front of her and held her hand. Don't you want this chance? Besides, I've already found out that the person who drugged you is Yuwen. It's her. Lin Sisi's eyes were burning with anger. She grabbed a palace guard's knife and rushed onto the stage. She pointed at Qing and asked, do you dare to compete with me? Qing was already angry. Yuwen was humiliated by Yingxue, so she couldn't teach Yingxue a lesson in public. Now, Lin Sisi had jumped out. Lin Sisi had always been on good terms with Yingxue, so teaching her a lesson was equivalent to teaching Yingxue a lesson. Qing also jumped onto the stage with her sword in hand and raised her chin high. Let's compete, but don't cry if you lose. You said that our princess bullied you, the delicate flower in the boudoir. Who is the delicate flower in the boudoir? I'm born in the thorn thicket. Lin Sisi waved her knife and slashed at Qing. Everyone thought that it would be a competition of swords, but they did not expect the two of them to directly become swords. Yuan was a little unhappy, but he was the one who allowed this competition. Since they were already fighting, he couldn't tell them to stop. Ling stayed by noble consort Xiao's side and shook noble consort Xiao's arm worriedly. Mother, do you have a way to make them stop? That maid's martial arts is very strong, I'm afraid Sisi isn't her match. If she's not a match, why is she showing off? He deserves to be beaten up. Noble consort Xiao did not have Chu Jinling's intentions. She had always been magnanimous and only looked up to capable women. She hated uselessness. This time, it was Lin Sisi who jumped onto the stage to stir up trouble. If she couldn't win, she wouldn't make a move. Even if Chu Jinling begged her, she would at most let Lin Sisi not be punished. However, when she saw her son obsessed with Lin Sisi, she felt a headache coming on. Chu Jinling was extremely nervous. He clenched his fists so hard that he was sweating profusely. On the stage, Lin Sisi's movements became more and more agile. Between her and Feng Qing, the sound of swords became more and more intense. Every move was fatal, and the hearts of the people below the stage were hanging. Chapter 476, Feng Qing was killed. Feng Qing found the gap as she turned, thrusting her sword towards Lin Sisi's side. Lin Sisi agilely dodged, then vigorously swung her sword. Not only did she deflect Feng Qing's sword, but the force of her powerful strike also forced Feng Qing to retreat several steps. Feng Qing's hand holding the sword trembled. She noticed that her sword now bore several nicks from Lin Sisi's sword. However, under the intense sunlight, Lin Sisi's sword glistened with a piercing cold light. Han Yuwen, assisted by Yun Dan, gritted her teeth and shouted at Feng Qing, "If you lose, I'll kill you." Feng Qing's heart tightened. "Princess, don't say a word. If you fail to defeat Su Yingxue, then you will kill this wench for me." Han Yuwen continued to pound the ground, her eyes filled with unvented anger. Reprimanded by Han Yuwen, Feng Qing had no choice but to attack Lin Sisi even faster and more ruthlessly, losing her composure. Lin Sisi looked carefree on the surface, but she was very careful when facing the enemy. She observed Feng Qing's weakness. She was afraid that Han Yuwen would kill her, so she was eager to win. Her actions were fast and full of loopholes. Seizing an opportunity, Lin Sisi used her sword to knock Feng Qing's sword away. Taking advantage of Feng Qing's momentary confusion, Lin Sisi placed her sword at Feng Qing's neck. With a swift half-turn, she cut through half of Feng Qing's neck. Pucci, blood splattered, staining Lin Sisi's face with a cold and heroic demeanor under the sunlight. "Oh my God! She killed someone. Is she dead?" This skilled maidservant was defeated by Miss Lin and died at her hands. Lin Sisi watched as Feng Qing convulsed on the floor, twitching a few times before rolling her eyes and snorting. With a sword in hand, Lin Sisi stood on the stage and knelt slowly. "Emperor, I have one. It's just that one made a mistake and accidentally killed this maidservant." Anyone with a martial arts background at the banquet could tell that Lin Sisi did not act carelessly. She had intentionally killed the maidservant. But her actions brought relief to the noble ladies of the great Qing dynasty. Who asked Han Yuwen and her maid to be so arrogant and provocative? Lin Sisi did well. Sisi truly lives up to her name. Su Yingxue applauded from below the stage. Yihan was surprised but worried. Won't Miss Lin be blamed by the emperor for killing someone like this?" Su Yingxue smiled, stood up, and shouted across the stage to Han Yuwen, "Princess, keeping such a disgraceful maidservant will be of little use to you, don't you think?" Han Yuwen's anger surged. "Which? She killed her maidservant and even dared to provoke her. Emperor, your great Qing dynasty has gone too far. It was just a competition, yet she killed Feng Qing in front of everyone. Feng Qing was my maidservant. Even in the Qi state, your majesty dared not reprimand Feng Qing, but now she has tragically died under Lin Sisi's sword." Yun Dan, usually indifferent, couldn't help but redden her eyes. She and Feng Qing were like sisters. They had served Han Yuwen together for so many years, and now she witnessed her death. She wished to hack Lin Sisi and Su Yingxue into pieces. Han Yuwen didn't feel sorry for Feng Qing's death. She only thought Feng Qing was useless. But she wouldn't let Su Yingxue off easily. Approaching Lin Sisi, she pointed and said, "Emperor, this person killed my maidservant. Please give me an explanation." Chu Mingyuan's gaze deepened as he rebuked Lin Sisi. "You dare! How dare you kill someone in front of me, Lin Sisi? Who gave you the courage?" Chapter 477. Chu Yihan gave him a knife. Lin Sisi lowered her gaze. "Emperor, it is my fault for taking a life, but this maid deserved to die. Even if my maid deserved to die, it is not your place to take action." Han Yuwen angrily retorted. "The princess is right, but the princess has offended a noble daughter of our great Qing dynasty. Should I make a move against you? Sisi doesn't have that status, but I'm giving you face by attacking your maid." Lin Sisi pointed her sword at Feng Qing's corpse. 1 a.m. General Lin's legitimate daughter. This mere maid insulted the noble daughter in the great Qing dynasty. There is nothing wrong with me killing her. It's just that the blood splattered in the main hall and stained the emperor's eyes. I'm indeed guilty and hope that the emperor will punish me. Lin Sisi knelt, seeking punishment. Her words were both tactful and defended the honor of the great Qing dynasty. Han Yuwen could only swallow her frustration. Chu Mingyuan was satisfied with her response. Although he intended to punish Lin Sisi, he said, "Lin Sisi, for killing in front of the palace, you are disrespectful. One hereby ground you for 3 months, and you are not allowed to leave the residence without an edict. Leave the banquet immediately and return to your residence." Chu Mingyuan's punishment was a face-saving measure for Han Yuwen. Looking at Han Yuwen, he added, "The maid is dead. I hope the princess can find solace. I will have the empress select an outstanding maid to present to the princess." "Emperor, is this punishment not too lenient? Lin Sisi has taken a life, and she's only grounded." The empress, harboring hatred toward Su Yingxue, despised anyone associated with her. Su Yingxue lowered her head and chuckled. The empress was walking right into Chu Mingyuan's trap. Chu Mingyuan was displeased. He gave the empress a fierce glare. "As the ruler of a nation, how can one backtrack on my decision?" "Emperor," the empress wanted to argue further, but Chu Mingyuan's stern gaze silenced her. Chu Qingye, showing wisdom, stepped forward and calmly stated, "Mother, there are still maids in my residence skilled in martial arts. I will personally present them to the princess for selection, ensuring her satisfaction." Chu Mingyuan stroked his beard. Yes, Ye is considerate. Despite the empress' foolishness, he had a son who pleased Chu Mingyuan. Chu Qingye also advised the empress not to provoke Chu Mingyuan again. Reluctantly, the empress had to give up. As Lin Sisi was about to leave the palace, Chu Yihan suddenly spoke, "Wait." Everyone's breath caught. Lin Sisi turned around, surprised. "What is it, Your Highness?" "This sword, one bestow upon you." Chu Yihan waved his hand, and Mo Qi approached Lin Sisi with a treasured sword. Lin Sisi, looking at the golden dragon pattern on the hilt, immediately knelt. "This is a relic of the late emperor. One dare not." "Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Highness." Phew! Although others might not recognize it, when Lin Sisi said those words, they collectively gasped. The late emperor's sword. Your Highness is so generous to bestow it upon Miss Lin. Jilan exclaimed in Su Yingxue's ear. Su Yingxue looked at Chu Yihan. There was no expression on his handsome face. She heard him say calmly, "You deserve my reward." Such a casually spoken sentence carried his unique aura and was especially intense. Lin Sisi's eyes turned red. She raised her hands above her head, eager to receive the sword from Emochi. Others may not have known, but she knew that the late emperor was highly skilled in martial arts and had a strong affection for sword techniques. That was why he collected renowned blades from all over the world. This particular one was a favorite of the late emperor's, and when her father brought her into the palace, she had the privilege to see it. Chapter 478, Wu Dao makes a move. Her father mentioned that the late emperor admired him and allowed him to use this sword. He had always been grateful. Now, Yihan had bestowed this sword on her. Wait. Chu Minjiwan's eyes were filled with hostility. Ninth Prince, how can you reward someone so easily? This sword was originally consecrated in the Ancestor Hall. How can you take it out without my permission? Father has decreed that all relics belong to me. One have the right to bestow it upon anyone. Moreover, Lin Sisi is a hero among women and one of the best among the noble women of our great Qing dynasty. There is nothing wrong with me bestowing her with this. Yihan raised his eyes, not hiding the sharpness in his gaze as if he were deliberately staring at Chu Mingyuan. Chu Mingyuan clenched his fists in his sleeves. A flame of anger burned from the bottom of his heart, causing his entire body to tremble slightly. In just an instant, he restrained himself. Mo-chi reminded Lin Sisi, Miss Lin, quickly take it. Lin Sisi was stunned for a moment before she took the sword. This sword wasn't light, and most women wouldn't be able to pick it up, but Lin Sisi held it with utmost respect. She left with the sword in her arms. Her back view was as elegant as when she carried the sword on stage. Chu Jinling was captivated by it. When noble consort Xiao was not paying attention, he quietly ran to the palace wall. He watched Lin Sisi being sent out of the palace and thought that he would not be able to see her for the next few months. Even if he could run out of the palace, her mother would not let him enter the general manor. The corners of his mouth curled into a bitter smile. When his mother loved him, but when she controlled him, she would never give him a chance to take advantage. Sisi, be good. Chu Jinling looked at the figure that was walking further and further away, his heart filled with hope. Ninth Prince, the Empress is looking for you. Granny Song shouted from below. Chu Jinling quickly restrained his emotions and put on a smile. PM here. He jumped off the city wall and returned to noble consort Xiao's side with Granny Song, returning to being that obedient son. Seeing him return with a smile, Yingxue felt much better. After Lin Sisi vented her anger, she would not be so stubborn about this matter in the future. As for her and Chu Jinling. Today, Yihan gave Lin Sisi a sword to give her face and make everyone forget what happened that night. Yihan saw the guilt in her heart and came to help her make up for it, right? Yingxue cupped her face and glanced over at Yihan. Yihan was also looking at her. Their eyes met, and the blood in her chest started to pump again. When Han Yuwen saw Yingxue's smile, her entire face became distorted. Yingxue. Yundan saw that Han Yuwen's emotions were unstable and quickly comforted her. Princess, don't be anxious. With the teacher around, you will not lose to Yingxue. Of course, one won't lose. Han Yuwen said stubbornly. However, she knew very well that Wu Dao did not side with her at all. Otherwise, when Yingxue whipped her just now, Yingxue wouldn't have been able to retreat unharmed. And Lin Sisi would not have the chance to kill her maid. The banquet would not stop because of the death of a maid. Just as Chu Mingyuan was about to call for the next batch of performances, the hoarse and pale voice sounded with endless pressure. I heard that Miss Su's medical skills are extraordinary. I'm not talented, but I would like to see it for myself. For some reason, when Wu Dao said this, it made Su Yingxue's nerves go numb. However, in just a moment, she stood up and calmly faced Wu Dao. May I know how you would like to experience it, sir? Chapter 479. Compared to surgery at this moment, Yihan quickly voiced his objection. The proficiency of medical skills is not suitable for a competition here. According to Ninth Brother's suggestion, where should we have the competition? In your Ninth Prince's mansion. If Ninth Brother thinks so, I don't mind bringing all my beloved ministers and their families for a visit to the Ninth Prince's mansion, Chu Mingyuan said with a mocking smile. Yihan consistently opposed him at every turn, and it was like a thorn in his heart. Since he was protecting Su Yingxue, why should he let him feel at ease? Seeing that Yihan was about to have a conflict with Chu Mingyuan, Su Yingxue quickly said, I think it's possible. I just don't know how the Silver Moon Pavilion Master wants to witness my medical skills. Her original intention was Wu Dao. Wu Dao had attacked her, so she would not let go of this opportunity to investigate him. Han Yuan's eyes flashed with excitement. The teacher was finally willing to give her a chance. She quickly stood up. The level of medical skills will only be known after a competition. Su Yingxue, do you dare to compete with me? Princess, what gives you the confidence to say such things to me? Has the princess sparred less with me recently? Has the princess ever won? A trace of distress appeared in Su Yingxue's eyes. Her opponent was too stupid. She was not happy about winning. Han Yuwen felt humiliated, but she would not lower her head just like that. Su Yingxue, you don't have to be so arrogant. If you're inferior to me. Su Yingxue did not know where Han Yuwen got her confidence from. But compared to Han Yuwen, she was determined to compete. Since the eldest princess is interested, Miss Su will have a competition with the eldest princess. Let me see how much Miss Su has received from your father's teaching. Wu Dao's hoarse laughter always made people uncomfortable. No one could see through or hear him. Su Yingxue had been waiting for him to come up with a topic for the competition, but she had not expected it to be this. Dissection. What kind of competition was this? What should we do? Everyone could not help but ask this question. Chu Mingyuan's expression also changed. The coroner will only dissect the corpse when they examine it. Sir, are you talking about this? No. We can dissect living people too, Wu Dao said in a deep voice. And the topic I came up with is not limited to this. It's a dissection and suturing surgery. Let's see who can complete it better, Miss Su or the eldest princess. Dissect a living person. They still need to suture. This was too unbelievable. It's so scary. This is indeed terrifying. Whoever gets chosen will be unlucky. The people who had been looking forward to the competition earlier instantly felt their scalps go numb. They all kept a distance from Su Yingxue and Han Yuwen, afraid that they would catch them and use them as test subjects. Su Yingxue frowned. Using a living person as a test subject, she could smell a conspiracy. However, Han Yuwen seized this opportunity and said to Chu Mingyuan, Your Majesty, I'm ready. If Miss Su doesn't understand, I'll show her first. Han Yuwen got someone to prepare an operating table in front of everyone. Then, he changed into a germinal suit and tied her long hair firmly behind her head. Then, she ordered Yundan, You, come here. Take off your clothes and lie down. Yundan was very obedient. She took off her coat and lay down in front of Han Yuwen's operating table. She looked at Su Yingxue arrogantly. Miss Su, you've been practicing medicine for so long. I'm afraid you don't know that the human body has a total of 206 organs. There's the respiratory system, nervous system, digestive system, blood system, circulatory system, and so on. However, it's not that a human body can't survive just because it lacks an organ. For example, the appendix between the cecum and ileum on the lower right side of the abdomen. After removal, it won't affect the human immune system. Chapter 480. Slap her face till it's swollen. People who didn't understand medicine science were confused when they heard Han Ye's words. But when the few highly respected court physicians heard Han Yuwen's words, they were puzzled. What was the appendix? Although the human body had many internal organs, could they be cut off casually? Moreover, after the incision, how should the issues of suturing the wound and preventing wound infection be addressed? A court physician shook his head at Han Yuwen's behavior. Child's play. This is simply child's play. It's like playing with one's life. Yingxue agreed with the court physician. Han Yuwen was indeed playing with one life. However, she understood what Han Yuwen was saying. What she was about to do with Yun Dan was an appendectomy. After the removal, Yun Dan's body would not be affected. And Wu Dao was the one who would determine their victory or defeat. Wu Dao saw Yingxue pondering for a long time and asked her, "Miss Su, are you afraid? Or perhaps you don't understand what the princess is saying? If you don't understand, princess, please begin." Yingxue ignored Wu Dao and raised her eyebrows at Han Yuwen. Han Yuwen hated her indifferent look the most. She thought to herself, Yingxue, you're going to lose. She had asked around. The last time Yingxue operated on her father, she was anxious. How could she win against her, a surgery doctor? Compared to her in surgery, Yingxue, this ancient person, was like a blind person jumping around in front of a discerning person. She would slap her face until it was swollen. When Han Yuwen started, she lit an incense stick on the table. The incense stick would take an hour to burn out, but from the time she started the surgery to the time she finished the suture, it did not take an hour at all. Only 2/3 of the incense stick had been burned, and there was still a small half left. Han Yuwen looked at the wound that she stitched up perfectly. She smiled proudly. She did not believe that Yingxue could be better than her. After she finished suturing, she stood beside Yun Dan and invited Wu Dao over. Wu Dao looked at the incision she made and the wound she sutured. He only said one word, "Good." Han Yuwen was a little disappointed. Before she transmigrated, she was also a highly praised member of the laboratory, but her mentor had only used one word to commend her, "Good." Although her mentor rarely said the word good to others, she remembered that when her senior Long Shuli underwent surgery, her mentor had said, "Very good." Always one more word than her. This made her feel indignant for a long time. But now, the person who was going to compete with her wasn't Long Shuli, so she didn't have to think so much. To be able to get Wu Dao to praise her was already enough to save face. Chu Minjiwan's expression was unfathomable. He said lightly, "Princess Yuwen's medical skills are indeed extraordinary." Wu Dao would never easily acknowledge a person. With Chu Minjiwan's words, Han Yuwen could be considered a little proud. She changed into her sterile suit and turned around. She immediately provoked Yingxue. Yingxue, it's your turn. If you don't dare to make a move, then admit defeat to me as soon as possible. Kneel and kowtow 10 times to me, and one will not hold it against you. Yingxue touched her nose and was very curious. Princess, you're a person who lost all your clothes. What do you have to fuss about what happened before? Did she forget that she married a group of beggars? Han Yu was so angry that her entire body trembled. She threw the surgical tools at Yingxue. Yingxue, don't you dare. She had finally forgotten about this matter. This was an extremely insulting scar, but Yingxue dared to mention it. Chapter 481. Taking a knife for Su Yingxue. She was such a noble and proud person, yet she was thrown into a group of beggars to be humiliated. Swoosh! The sound of a sharp blade cutting through the air reached them. Han Yuwen was pushed by Wu Dao and fell to the ground. She let out a startled cry and wanted to ask Wu Dao why he pushed her. Boom! Behind her, the sound of a collapsing pillar echoed. She followed the sound and saw a golden chopstick piercing through a pillar as thick as an adult's thigh. It was evident that the person behind this had profound internal energy and extraordinarily powerful martial arts. However, Han Yuwen trembled all over, and cold sweat on her back soaked her clothes. The chopstick was aimed at her, following the position she had just been standing. If Wu Dao hadn't pushed her, the chopstick wouldn't have pierced the pillar but her. Han Yuwen's face turned pale. She looked in the direction where the chopstick came from. It was where Yihan was sitting. Yihan's eyes were chilling. Next time, no matter who is protecting you, it's useless. Your Highness, Han Yuwen was forced to tears. How could Yihan be so heartless? Just because she threw a surgical tool at Su Yingxue, he wanted to kill her. Su Yingxue glanced at the surgical tool far away. She couldn't help but comment that Han Yuwen, a woman without martial skills attempting to kill someone, must have lost her mind. However, Han Yuwen immediately presented her with a dilemma. Su Yingxue, don't be too pleased. It's your turn. Choose someone close to you and perform this surgery on her. This question made Su Yingxue frown. Who would willingly take a surgery for no reason? Regardless of whether it would be fatal or not, just opening a wound on their body was not something an ordinary person would willingly do. I'm willing, Mississippi. Please perform the surgery on me. Yihan knelt in front of Su Yingxue. She knew that Su Yingxue was a principled person. Choosing someone for this task was difficult for her. If possible, she would probably prefer to perform the surgery on herself. However, she was Su Yingxue's servant, originally a subordinate, and should be at Su Yingxue's service. Good girl, get up. I won't let you be harmed. Su Yingxue pulled her up and faced Chu Mingyuan. Emperor, Princess Yuwen can easily cut open a maid's body, but one believe that treating human life with such contempt is no different from taking it lightly. Why not find a patient with this illness? I'm willing to perform the surgery on them. She had been contemplating this matter earlier. It wasn't that she hadn't encountered the illness Han Yuwen mentioned at the clinic. If she found a suitable patient, performing the surgery would be justified. However, she refused to engage in the immoral act of randomly picking a person and conducting surgery on them, as Han Yuwen did. Su Yingxue, if you're afraid, just say so. Why are you finding excuses? Waiting for you to find a patient. What right do you have to make me wait for you? If you're willing to admit defeat, I will wait for you to kowtow. Han Yuwen spoke arrogantly, I use my maid for the surgery. Yun Dan has been with me for many years, and we share a deep bond. Yet, you want to find a patient. Not only is it time-consuming, but are you trying to deceive me? Or do you have no confidant willing to sacrifice for you? Her eyes carried a strong sense of mockery as she presented her skewed logic confidently. Su Yingxue protected Yihan. People close to you are meant to be cherished, not subjected to surgery. I'm afraid the princess doesn't understand this, right? Cut the chatter. Su Yingxue, are you trying to stall for time? Chapter 482. Fighting for Su Yingxue. Han Yuwen pressed on relentlessly. The princess' aura was still very distinct and powerful. Su Yingxue insisted on finding a patient. When she was arguing with Han Yuwen, Chu Mingyuan intervened and said, All right, Su Yingxue, find someone close to you, just like the princess, so that you won't lose your honor. Emperor, this matter concerns one's life. We can't just talk about honor. Su Yingxue frowned. Miss Su, am willing to be your honor. Qin Mayan stood up after drinking. He was tall and robust, and his facial features carried a kind of wildness. He strode over to Su Yingxue, towering over her by more than half a body. He smiled grandly. It's just a knife to remove an appendix. I'm willing. If you don't mind, 111 let you perform surgery on my body. Su Yingxue was left speechless. She moved her hand and gently placed her palm on Qin Mayan's head. Your Highness, you've had too much to drink. Shouldn't you go back and rest? He was probably drunk. He was drunk and had a fever. I'm not drunk. Qin Mayan grabbed Su Yingxue's hand and held it in his palm. Her small hands were exceptionally soft, and her skin was as smooth as jade. Qin Mayan was instantly moved. When he spoke, there was a strong smell of alcohol. I'm willing to let you perform the surgery. You can do it without worry. After he finished speaking, he was about to take off his clothes and lie down in front of Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue hurriedly pulled him back. Your Highness, you can't. She wouldn't even let Yihan go, so how could she let Qin Mayan be her surgical object? Qin Mayan was the scarlet-flamed king of the Great Wei dynasty. This was not a joking matter. However, Qin Mayan was very firm. If one say I'm willing, then I'm willing. You can do whatever you want. Even if I die here, I'm willing. Su Yingxue's hand that was held by him felt hot, and her face also began to heat up. She was a little helpless. I appreciate your kind intentions, Your Highness, but this is unnecessary. There was no need for her to do surgery with Qin Mayan. Get up. The man's deep voice stopped Qin Mayan from lying down. Qin Mayan couldn't lie down in front of Su Yingxue. His hand was empty, and Su Yingxue's hand was pulled back by Yihan. Yihan held Su Yingxue's hand and said, "This seat belongs to me." He was referring to the bed where Su Yingxue was to be operated on. Su Yingxue was left speechless. The situation suddenly became complicated. Everyone was discussing. These two noble Your Highnesses were rushing to the place where they might meet their end. What was there to fight for? Or did they not know that lying down was not sleeping but being stabbed? Chu Jinling had nothing to do and had already started writing his novel. When he heard those discussions, he snorted disdainfully, "You don't understand. Imperial uncle is fighting for the sacrifice of his beloved. How could such an opportunity fall into the hands of others? Even if he was stabbed, he could not let this opportunity go to others. Yihan, you are the 9th prince of the great Qing dynasty. If you were to be stabbed today, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to leave the palace," Qin Mayan kindly reminded. Yihan's imperial brother was not as close to him as his imperial brother. Yihan's eyes were cold. What does it have to do with you? Of course, it has something to do with me. Because I'm willing to sacrifice for Miss Su. In the future, I will marry her and bring her back to the Great Wei dynasty. Qin Mayan became more and more excited as he spoke. Su Yingxue quickly covered his mouth. Your Highness, didn't I ask you not to say such things anymore? Chapter 483. I can't wait to dissect Su Yingxue. Luckily, he didn't speak loudly. If everyone had heard it, would her reputation be ruined? Although her reputation wasn't that good at the moment. Don't even think about it. Yihan's eyes were filled with hostility, and his aura was so powerful that it made people feel afraid. If the two of them were to argue here, Su Yingxue would not let them do such a dangerous thing for her. Her eyes flashed. If the two Your Highnesses have such intentions, then come with me. She led the two away from the view of the crowd. A noble of the great Qing dynasty and a noble of the Great Wei dynasty were following behind her, protecting her step by step. This scene made all the women present jealous. They felt jealous. Especially Han Yuwen. She wished she could use surgical tools to cut out every nerve in Su Yingxue's body. This woman. Not content with just seducing Qin Mayan, she also lured away Yihan. Yihan, Qin Mayan, and Su Yingxue had been away for quite a while, and it seemed like they might never return. The waiting crowd was growing anxious. Father, you'll immediately lead people to search for them, Chu Qingye said when he saw Chu Mingyuan frowning. Chu Mingyuan's brows relaxed a little. All right, go ahead. Once Chu Qingye left with his men, Han Yuwen couldn't sit still. Qin Mayan's seat was originally behind hers. When Chu Qingye left, Qin Mayan's confidant also followed him out. Han Yuwen was afraid that something suspicious was going on. If Su Yingxue ran away, her plan would be ruined. She stood up, ready to search as well. Yun Dan had just done the surgery. She tried to persuade Han Yuwen weakly, "Princess, wait patiently. This is the palace. Su Yingxue can't escape." Han Yuwen didn't listen at all. Yihan and Qin Mayan are protecting her. What if they come up with another idea? She would never allow such a thing to happen. She wanted Su Yingxue to be unable to raise her head in front of her. Princess. Yun Dan struggled to get up and chase after Han Yuwen. However, her movement would pull on her wound. Although Han Yuwen's medical skills were outstanding, she still had an opening on her body and removed her organs. She could not walk as usual. After Han Yuwen left, in just a short while, Su Yingxue and Yihan returned. Naturally, Chu Mingyuan had questions. Su Yingxue, what were you doing? You made me and all the civil and military officials wait for you. Emperor, please forgive me. One had asked Your Highness to find some tools from the palace, Su Yingxue explained. What tools? Chu Mingyuan frowned. Yihan waved his hand, and palace servants carried 4 screens onto the stage. The 4 screens surrounded the stage, but everyone could still see Yihan standing inside. After Yihan stepped out, he explained, undressing in public is inappropriate. With these screens to cover, it should be fine. His explanation made sense. Chu Mingyuan didn't say anything. Since you're ready, let's get started. Yes, I obey. Su Yingxue clapped her hands, and Mo Qi brought a stretcher. Everyone was curious about who was on the stretcher, but Su Yingxue covered it with a layer of cloth, and the stretcher was taken behind the screens. Yihan returned to his seat without bothering Su Yingxue. Seeing him, many naturally guessed that the person on the stretcher was Qin Mayan. Many sighed in secret. Tsk, Miss Su is truly daring. Daring to operate on the Scarlet Flame King. Chapter 484, Han Yuwen disappeared. If anything were to happen to the Scarlet Flame King, the king of Great Wei Dynasty would not let it go. The discussions among the people were exactly what Chu Mingyuan wanted to hear. Regardless of whether Su Yingxue targeted Yihan or Qin Mayan, it would be advantageous for him. If she had chosen Yihan, then today, the imperial palace would be Yihan's final resting place. If she had chosen Qin Mayan, any issue with Qin Mayan's body in the future would undoubtedly infuriate the king of the Great Wei Dynasty. If the king of the Great Wei Dynasty used this as a pretext to instigate a war between the two countries, he could cast out Su Yingxue and Yihan, making them face death together. Apart from his main concern, Chu Mingyuan calculated with a smile on his face. However, behind the folding screen, as Su Yingxue put on her gloves, the person lying in front of her was filled with anger and hatred. Su Yingxue, how dare you? How dare you treat me like this? Han Yuwen struggled with all her might, but it was futile. Su Yingxue had bound her and administered an anesthetic. In ancient times, such substances could not provide the efficient anesthesia of the modern era. She wouldn't completely lose consciousness, but she lacked the strength to resist. Su Yingxue methodically secured her limbs and even smiled at Han Yuwen. Why not try struggling a bit more, princess? Han Yuwen strained against her bonds. The operating table was sturdy, and she couldn't rise. Yet, she glared at Su Yingxue with intense hatred, wishing she could spew fire. Su Yingxue, if you release me now, I might spare your life. Otherwise, Su Yingxue had already unveiled her clothes. The last bit of mercy she granted was to inform her. I didn't ask you to undress in public. I've brought these 4 folding screens to save you some dignity. Eldest princess, it was you who first abandoned life and dignity. She leaned over to Han Yuwen. Her sharp-eyed gaze magnified in Han Yuwen's eyes. She exuded a powerful aura. Han Yuwen, since you enjoy playing with lives so much, experience firsthand what it's like to be treated as a mere tool. Su Yingxue, Han Yuwen gritted her teeth. She wanted to say more, but Su Yingxue sealed her mute acupoint. Her mouth could still move, but no sound emerged. The coldness of the blade against her skin made her numb. No. She didn't want this. She didn't want to become an experiment. She had been arrogant since childhood. For so many years, she had treated animals and others as test subjects. No one had ever treated her like this. How could Su Yingxue? Su Yingxue hadn't administered much anesthesia. Han Yuwen couldn't move, but she keenly felt the pain. The blade cut through her skin, layer by layer. Tears of hatred rolled down Han Yuwen's cheeks. She was in excruciating pain. Everyone could see Su Yingxue performing surgery behind the screen. Most assumed it was Qin Mayan. Only Wu Dao stared at Han Yuwen's seat for a while, then narrowed his eyes. Seeing that Han Yuwen hadn't returned, Yun Dan grew very worried. She propped herself up, intending to approach Chu Mingyuan to request sending someone to search for Han Yuwen. However, she thought about it and realized that Han Yuwen's previous ruckus wasn't too good. Chu Mingyuan was now focused on Su Yingxue on the stage, and it was inevitable that she would anger the emperor. She dragged herself to Wu Dao with heavy steps, pleading, "Sir, the princess hasn't returned yet. I'm worried about her. Please send someone to find the princess." Chapter 485, Lost to Su Yingxue, No Need. Wu Dao's voice was cold and deep. Why? What if something happens to the princess, and they plot against her? Yun Dan had never been this worried before. In Qi's state, they could do whatever they wanted, but since they arrived in the great Qing dynasty, Feng Qing was killed. Han Yuwen had also been humiliated by the beggar, and now she had undergone surgery. If she couldn't save Han Yuwen, her demise wasn't far off. Wu Dao had already figured out that Han Yuwen's disappearance was because Su Yingxue had taken her away. She was now on the operating table, and the surgery had already begun. Even if he exposed her now, it would be futile. Wu Dao no longer paid attention to Yun Dan. He fully focused on watching Su Yingxue's figure on the screen. She resembled her mother but was surprisingly different. Without studying in the modern era's advanced medical field and lacking professional training, she demonstrated remarkable surgical skills. Her talent and ability far exceeded her mother, Long Shuli. With only half of the incense stick burnt, Su Yingxue finished suturing. Inspecting Han Yuwen's wound, she nodded in satisfaction. It's an improvement from before. Ah. Han Yuwen made a muffled sound. It was then that Su Yingxue noticed she still had her mute acupoint pressed. She suddenly remembered and said, "I'm sorry, I forgot." Undoing Han Yuwen's acupuncture point, Han Yuwen immediately cursed weakly, Su Yingxue, you wretch. Due to the strength of the anesthetic and the recent surgery, her voice was unusually feeble. Su Yingxue kindly advised, Princess, conserve your strength to prevent further injury to the wound. Emperor, I have completed the surgery. Please have the Silver Moon Pavilion Master evaluate it, she said to Chu Mingyuan after walking out from behind the screen. Chu Mingyuan showed great respect to Wu Dao. Sir, please. Wu Dao grunted and walked onto the stage, bypassing the screen. He wasn't surprised to see the weakened Han Yuwen lying on the operating table. Observing the wound, he concluded that Su Yingxue's incision and suturing skills surpassed Han Yuwen, a surgical doctor. In a deep voice, he remarked, very good. Very good. Han Yuwen's eyes widened in disbelief. Teacher. Su Yingxue, how is this possible? How could she do better than me? She's nothing. She can't surpass me. Wu Dao turned around, allowing Han Yuwen to see his unfathomable eyes. Your skills are inferior. My skills, inferior. Han Yuwen was deeply shocked, her eyes gradually losing focus. How is that possible? How can I lose to Su Yingxue? Nothing is impossible. Since Mr. Wu Dao said so, you have lost, Su Yingxue said expressionlessly. When she raised her eyes to look at Wu Dao, curiosity filled her beautiful eyes. Can you tell me, the Silver Moon Pavilion Master, what is your relationship with my mother? Why did you spy on me so many times? Wu Dao remained enigmatic. Standing in front of him, she could feel the intimidating aura he emitted, beyond the capacity of normal people. Wu Dao suddenly laughed, a dark and cold laughter. Sooner or later, you will know. And she would bring all the people he desired to him. Your mother is a wretch, just like you. Han Yuwen covered her wound and sat up, glaring at Su Yingxue with hatred. Smack! Su Yingxue slapped her. You have no right to insult my mother. You're nothing compared to her. Ha! When I met her, Su Yingxue, didn't exist at all. You have no right to say that. Chapter 486, Lure her out. Yilan Yuwen could barely stand firm by supporting herself on the operating table. She didn't notice the glint in Su Yingxue's eyes. Su Yingxue narrowed her eyes. Sure enough, just as she had guessed, Han Yuwen and her mother were people from the same era. Perhaps they did not belong to this 9 continents, but Han Yuwen was only a few years older than her, so why was she so familiar with her mother? In their era, there were surgeries, exquisite medicine, and what else? What was their relationship with Wu Dao? What was his motive? More and more questions surfaced in Su Yingxue's mind, but this only fueled her determination to continue searching. The secrets of her mother, Han Yuwen, and Wu Dao were yet to be unveiled. She must find out how her mother was killed. Princess. Yun Dan heard Han Yuwen's voice from the stage and rushed up immediately. She saw that Han Yuwen's clothes were disheveled, and there was a similar wound in the same spot on her body. She was shocked. Princess, she was operated on by Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue, how dare you perform surgery on the princess? Yun Dan shouted. Even if it affected her wound, she would seek justice for Han Yuwen. What is it? The person inside is the princess. The Empress heard the commotion and quickly sent people to check. Yun Dan helped Han Yuwen put on her clothes and, together with the Empress attendants, assisted her in leaving. Han Yuwen's eyes were filled with hatred as she slowly knelt. Emperor, please seek justice for me. Su Yingxue, plotted against me. Su Yingxue, what's going on? Chu Mingyuan's face darkened with anger. He had initially thought Su Yingxue would choose between Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan for the surgery. Regardless of her choice, it would benefit him. But she chose to operate on Han Yuwen. Emperor, Su Yingxue plotted against me. She deserves to be executed. If you don't kill Su Yingxue immediately, how will you explain to Qi State? The Empress declared fiercely, a sense of urgency in her voice, fearing Su Yingxue might escape again. Su Yingxue explained calmly, Emperor, the princess willingly agreed to the surgery. What did you say? The princess agreed. Chu Mingyuan's stern brows revealed doubt. Nonsense. Han Yuwen stood up angrily. How could I agree to such a dangerous thing? It was you who knocked me out and operated on me. You're slandering me. As Han Yuwen's wound throbbed with pain, her hatred for Su Yingxue deepened. She wished she could tear Su Yingxue into 1,000 pieces. Su Yingxue, not only did you harm me, but now you're also trying to falsely accuse me. You're despicable. The Empress waved her sleeves forcefully. Guards! Seize her! A group of palace guards rushed towards Su Yingxue. Yihan swiftly reached Su Yingxue's side. The guards, intimidated by Yihan's cold and ruthless demeanor, trembled as if facing the king of the underworld. Yihan coldly addressed Chu Mingyuan and the Empress. This matter was voluntary on the part of the princess. I can testify for Su Yingxue. Nonsense. I did not agree. It was you. It was you who conspired against me. Yihan Yuwen's eyes welled with tears of hatred. She refused to believe that Su Yingxue had conspired against her, but when she saw Yihan leaving with her, she was afraid Su Yingxue would choose Yihan for the surgery. Worriedly, she went to take a look, only to find out Su Yingxue had used Yihan to lure her out. Chapter 487, Can't let Su Yingxue escape, that's right. Ninth Prince's baseless accusations must have limits. How could a princess of such dignity agree to let Su Yingxue operate on her? You conspired to frame the princess. The Empress spoke coldly and angrily. Han Yuwen wasn't foolish. She must have fallen into Su Yingxue's trap. This time, she was determined to capture both Su Yingxue and Yihan. Emperor, if the princess didn't consent willingly, how could we force her? The four-sided screen was the prince's idea. The princess willingly sacrificed her mental well-being for the surgery, making us feel inferior. Su Yingxue praised Han Yu. Han Yuwen glared at her angrily. You deceitful villain. If she continued opposing Su Yingxue, she would only be damaging her reputation. Princess, if there's anything wrong with your wound, one will immediately treat it for you. However, the words you spoke before and after the surgery are inconsistent. 1 a.m. truly wronged. Su Yingxue sighed softly. Her demeanor, to onlookers, seemed full of grievance. It wasn't hard for everyone to imagine that Han Yuwen, skilled in political schemes, was helping Su Yingxue as part of a plan to harm her. Han Yuwen felt the disdainful gazes and harbored a mix of grievance and hatred. It was Su Yingxue. She's the one who harmed me. How did she become the one who wronged Su Yingxue? Chu Mingyuan knew there was no evidence to act against Su Yingxue without proof, but he wouldn't let both her and Yihan off easily. Ninth brother, your alleged collaboration with Su Yingxue to harm the princess. Although there is no concrete evidence, it is a fact that the princess was injured. The two of you must give the princess an explanation. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand and ordered the guards to capture Su Yingxue. Emperor, wait. Qin Mayan suddenly appeared, jumping to Su Yingxue's side, and respectfully addressing Chu Mingyuan. Emperor, I can also testify for Su Yingxue. Princess Yuwen indeed volunteered to have the surgery performed by Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue did not coerce her. Regarding the princess exposing Su Yingxue, I find it suspicious. Han Yuwen's eyes showed a desire to devour someone. Qin Mayan, both of you have been bewitched. He was also testifying in favor of Su Yingxue. What kind of monster was Su Yingxue that made him and Yihan lose their senses? Princess, I'm only stating the facts. Qin Mayan was forthright, his voice exuding a masculine aura. I am the Scarlet Flame King of the Great Wei Dynasty. Does Princess think that you can cover everything in the Qi Kingdom, and also in the Great Wei Dynasty? Han Yuwen trembled slightly. How could she not understand the warning in Qin Mayan's words? In the Great Wei Dynasty, Qin Mayan held a pivotal position, and the same was true for Yihan. Both of them testified, and even she could not refute their words. It led Chu Mingyuan to accuse the two princes on her behalf. And Su Yingxue, under their protection, would remain unscathed. Su Yingxue, Han Yu felt her wound reopen due to her struggle, blood flowing incessantly, and she fainted from anger. Princess! Princess! Yun Dan shouted urgently. Han Yuwen was carried out, and Chu Mingyuan could no longer blame Su Yingxue. Forget it, all of you retreat. He waved his hand in frustration. Emperor, you can't let Su Yingxue off. If the Qi state asks us in the future, how are we going to answer to the Qi state? The Empress gripped Chu Mingyuan's sleeve. Chapter 488. Yihan is jealous. The Empress didn't want Su Yingxue to escape again from this opportunity. Mother, one will send you back to the palace first, Chu Qingye suggested. Chu Qingye could see Chu Mingyuan's dissatisfaction with the Empress and hurriedly intervened. You too will become a fool bewitched by Su Yingxue. The Empress, experiencing cold treatment from Chu Mingyuan and now being persuaded by her son, wished she could hit her head against the wall. Although Chu Qingye wanted to escort the Empress back to the palace, she refused. He didn't even have the chance to explain to the Empress that today wasn't an opportune moment to deal with Su Yingxue. Yihan and Qin Mayan, one being his imperial uncle and the other the Scarlet Flame King of the Great Wei Dynasty, were witnesses. Han Yuwen alone could not have overturned the two of them. It was a power struggle. Han Yuwen lost this battle. There was no need for them to side with her for Han Yuwen. Chu Qingye was also furious. He imagined the scene today. If Su Yingxue had been with him, he might not have been able to protect her. As he passed the stage, he saw the two tall men standing beside Su Yingxue. He felt an intense unwillingness. One after another, everyone left. Su Yingxue was escorted out of the hall by two men. Yihan and Qin Mayan walked on her left and right, their powerful auras overwhelming. Su Yingxue found it a bit overwhelming, but she still thanked them. Thank you both for today, she said, looking obedient. Don't mention it. In the future, whenever you need help, feel free to come find me. I will ensure your safety, Qin Mayan responded, pleased with her attitude. Su Yingxue smiled and nodded. However, she found Qin Mayan's words oddly familiar. It seemed like Yihan had said something similar to her. Su Yingxue glanced to her right and looked at Yihan. His expression was cold, and he had been silent since the beginning. When he saw her gaze, he gave her a cold look but held her hand. He spoke, not to Su Yingxue, but to Qin Mayan, she doesn't have to be so polite with me. Don't misunderstand, Scarlet Flame King. Qin Mayan sneered, misunderstand what? If Miss Su and Ninth Prince didn't need to be so polite, why would she thank you and me just now? This is in the palace. When we were in the residence, she was never polite to me. Every mouthful of rice one ate was personally fed by her. Yihan smiled gently at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. It was true that she had fed Yihan before, but his attitude today, something was off. Qin Mayan clenched his fists tightly. He didn't expect Su Yingxue and Yihan to have progressed to this stage. He looked at Su Yingxue with a dark gaze. Su Yingxue took a deep breath. Your Highness, actually, Su Yingxue, you don't have to explain yourself to me. I said I would marry you. As long as you're not Chu Yihan's princess, one will like you. Qin Mayan declared, displaying his determination. After he left, Wei Ju followed beside him. Su Yingxue rubbed her temples. She felt a little pain. Chu Yihan kept holding her hand without using much force. However, Su Yingxue's palms were so hot that they were sweating. Your Highness, this is the palace. Why don't you let me go? Su Yingxue's probing tone carried a hint of danger. Do you want me to let go of you? Do you want Qin Mayan to hold your hand? Su Yingxue shook her head. One didn't. There's nothing between me and the Scarlet Flame King. Chapter 489. Su Yuru's death. She didn't know where Qin Mayan's determination to marry her came from. He has feelings for you. Chu Yihan pulled her into his arms, holding her slender waist. He wished he could melt her in his palm, making her belong to him forever. Your Highness, are you jealous? Su Yingxue poked Chu Yihan's face. His godlike face was always so cold, unapproachable. Every time she had any thoughts about him, she felt she was too unrestrained. However, Chu Yihan's cheeks were slightly puffed up at this moment, and his deep black eyes were like gemstones flowing with brilliance. It was too easy for people not to be able to control themselves. Sensing that he was jealous for her, Su Yingxue was secretly delighted, and there was a sweet taste in her mouth. Not really. Chu Yihan's face turned cold when he saw how she had succeeded in making him jealous. Why not? You clearly, Su Yingxue pouted. Why was this man so uncute? So what if he was jealous? Why didn't he admit it? I'm just afraid that you've been deceived by Qin Mayan. Do you know why he helped you today? Chu Yihan stared at her with his deep eyes. Su Yingxue thought that Qin Mayan was just trying to protect her. But looking at Chu Yihan's expression, it seemed like there was something else going on. Qin Mayan had a good friend in the Qi state who died under Han Yuwen's schemes. As the Your Highness of Great Wei Dynasty, he naturally couldn't avenge his good friend. Now that he has the chance to use you to deal with Han Yuwen, why wouldn't he be happy? Chu Yihan said lightly. Is that so? Su Yingxue was a little surprised. She didn't feel disappointed. She only felt that it was a pity. It seems that Han Yuwen has made many enemies in Qi state. Su Yingxue had some plans in her heart. If she wanted to dig out the truth she wanted from Han Yuwen's mouth, she had to cut off all her connections and make her alone without anyone to rely on. Only then could she force out the secret deep in her heart. It would be good if she could find a weakness in Han Yuwen. Sister. The woman's delicate voice interrupted Su Yingxue's thoughts. Su Yingxue turned around and saw Su Yurou, who was wearing a dance outfit, staring at her weakly. She was already delicate, and now that she had lost a lot of weight, she looked even more delicate. Some people passed by on the palace road and saw Su Yurou standing in front of Su Yingxue in such a humble manner. They thought that Su Yingxue was bullying Su Yurou and even whispered a few words. Su Yingxue wasn't interested in making those people shut up. Instead, she looked at Su Yurou curiously. You always run out of the courtyard and even came to the palace to dance today. What are you trying to do? Sister has misunderstood me. I just want to talk to sister alone. In the residence, sister is busy and one can't see sister. I only managed to meet you in the palace today. Su Yurou explained softly. She doesn't need to see you. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue and was about to leave. Su Yingxue broke free from Chu Yihan's hand and winked at him. Let me see what she has to say to me. Your Highness, why don't you leave the palace first? She has ulterior motives. Yihan frowned. Of course, Yingxue knew this. Lu Shulan is dead. If I want to know about my mother's death, she might have some useful information. But don't worry, Your Highness. This is the palace, and she can't harm me, Yingxue said. With curved eyebrows and twinkling eyes, she seemed to harbor 1,000 little fairies within. Yihan nodded and left the palace to wait for her. Following Yurou, Yingxue reached a secluded palace. Perhaps due to its proximity to the cold palace, a chilling wind always blew in. Yurou stopped, turned around, and spoke softly, "Sister, shut up." Yingxue's face turned cold. I don't have the patience to listen to your circumlocution. Now, tell me everything you know about my mother. With their motives, both Yingxue and Yurou knew each other's intentions. If they could speak directly, Yingxue didn't want to waste time. Yingxue, do you want to know too? Yurou's demeanor changed, a sinister smile appeared on her pale face. Han Yuwen has repeatedly helped you escape the Marquis Manor. Wasn't it all to deal with me together with you? But unfortunately, both of you are trash. Now, you can still stand in front of me because you still have value and can tell me what I want to know. Yingxue remained as cold as ice, calm and steady. Every word she uttered seemed to step on Yurou's heart. Yurou was filled with hatred. Yingxue, do you think you're very powerful? Han Yuwen can't help me, that's because she's stupid. So, who helped you later? Wu Dao. Yingxue raised her eyebrows. Observing that Yurou's body was much worse than before, resembling a hollowed-out shell, she stretched out her hand suspiciously, wanting to grab her hand and take a pulse. However, Yurou ran to avoid it. After running 2 steps, she began panting. Yingxue, don't even think about escaping. This time, you will die. She seemed to have exhausted all her strength, and the smile on her face gradually became vicious. Don't you want to know the relationship between your mother and Han Yuwen? Let me tell you. Your mother, like Han Yuwen, is not human. Not human, Yingxue was especially puzzled. She wouldn't believe Yurou's nonsense. Yurou rushed towards her as if she had lost her soul, knowing she couldn't hurt her. Yingxue took only 2 steps to dodge, but Yurou missed. Bang! However, she crashed into the palace wall, blood splattering everywhere. Her viciousness froze on her pale face. Yingxue quickly went forward and pulled her over. Yurou. What are you trying to do? Did Wu Dao instruct you to do this? Yurou laughed coldly. Ha ha ha, Yingxue, you're going to die, you're going to die. She could finally avenge her. Yurou, eat this. Yingxue took a heart protection pill and stuffed it into her mouth. Unfortunately, she could not force her to swallow it, and Yurou stopped breathing. She died so quickly. Yingxue was especially surprised. When she held Yurou's hand, she realized that she had become as thin as a skeleton. Moreover, there were many needle holes in her body. Yurou pulled up her sleeves and clothes to check. She found that most of the blood in her body had disappeared. Yurou didn't die from the collision but from excessive blood loss. Even if she didn't crash into her today, she wouldn't be able to live for long. Her body had long been emptied. Yurou, what did you do? Yingxue was shocked. All the blood in her body had been sucked dry. What had happened to her? But before she could think, the Empress rushed in with her men. Yingxue, you're so vicious that you even killed your sister. One must kill you today, according to the rules of the palace. Chapter 490. Ling wanted to kill her. The Empress waved her hand, and the palace guards behind her entered in a single file. Without uttering a word, they launched a deadly attack on Yingxue. Yingxue wielded her whip to defend herself, realizing that this was all planned by the Empress. Yurou was killed by her sister in the palace. As the mother of the nation, the Empress, leveraging the palace rules and national laws, executed Yingxue. What a well-devised plot. However, Yingxue would not allow herself to perish at the hands of the Empress. She shouted to the sky, "Ziwei!" The black figure landed and appeared in front of everyone like a demon. His entire body was filled with a fierce and bloodthirsty aura. As soon as he unsheathed his saber, he cut an imperial palace guard in half from head to toe. Boom! The lifeless body lay on the ground, neatly cut in half, without any flesh or blood spilling out. The palace guards were so frightened that they could not move. The knives in their hands were trembling. Who was this incredibly fierce person? The Empress was left dumbfounded. She had lived in the palace for a long time and had never seen such a terrifying assassin. However, she couldn't bear to see Yingxue still alive. She calmed herself down and roared at the palace guard beside her, "What are you standing there for? This intruder must also be killed in line with the palace rules. Today, we cannot let Yingxue escape from the palace." Today, she was determined to claim Yingxue's head. Ziwei's formidable martial arts skills behind Yingxue isolated her from the bloodshed. She squatted beside Yurou's lifeless body, examining it. There were many needle holes in her arms, especially her wrists and elbows. These were places that were easy to extract blood, but they were all bruised. Who would take so much blood, and for what purpose? She kept feeling that something was about to come out of her mind, but she couldn't remember it for a while. She needed to bring Yurou's corpse back to the residence and consult Saint Yuan to study the matter together. She lifted Yurou's corpse, casting a glance at Ziwei. Ziwei nodded, and she departed peacefully. She navigated the palace roads she was familiar with. As long as she reached the palace gates, with Yihan around, no one would dare to impede her, even if she carried a corpse. However, before she could exit the secluded palace path, she encountered someone. Someone quite familiar. Guard Lan. Yingxue stopped in her tracks and looked at the man in front of her. It had been a while since their last meeting. Ling no longer possessed the same charm. He seemed to have weathered hardships. His recent days appeared challenging. Ling couldn't conceal the longing in his eyes, a tide surging forth. "Miss Su, you look fine," Ling said with some relief. Indeed, she was a capable woman, and with the 9th prince protecting her each time they met, her complexion was rosy and radiant. "Guard Lan, if you come here just to pick me up." Although Yingxue had met him a few times, she still maintained her vigilance. Because she knew that Ling was born into the Lan family, which was the trump card in the emperor's hands. The Lan family had 200,000 soldiers, and the descendants of the Lan family had been loyal to the emperor for generations. Chu Mingyuan harbored a deep fear of him. "Miss Su, please forgive me. One have to disappoint you." Ling pulled out a medicine bottle from his pocket. The golden wound medicine Yingxue had previously given him. Although he had used it up, he couldn't bear to discard the bottle and carried it in his pocket every day. When holding the bottle, his eyes still harbored nostalgia. The moment he let go of the bottle, he transformed into a cold-blooded and ruthless assassin, drawing his knife and slashing towards Yingxue. Chapter 491. Use Ling's life to exchange for her. Yingxue dodged and swiftly drew out her whip. Paw! The whip cracked loudly in the air, resembling a spirit snake as it lashed towards Ling. Ling's knife was entangled, but he took advantage of the momentum to move forward. After getting close to Yingxue, he kicked her in the chest. Although Yingxue used her arms to block, she still took a few steps back before managing to stand firm. The impact of Ling's blade left her feeling a bit dizzy. "Guard Lan, is this the Emperor's order?" Ling didn't attack her again, nor did he answer. He gave Yingxue a chance to catch her breath and immediately returned to her. Ling's martial arts was very powerful. It was evident from the crack marks on the palace wall caused by his blade. The Lan family's saber technique was famous far and wide. In the past, Yingxue had only dabbled in saber techniques. Later on, with Ziwei, she didn't practice much. Now, forced into a corner by Ling, if he slashed her with his saber, her head would be severed. Ling saw a trace of blood flowing from the corner of her mouth, and his eyes filled with pain. Yingxue took the opportunity to slap him. Ling stepped back. Yingxue supported herself against the wall and stood up. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she smiled faintly. "Many want my life, but if one die in Guard Lan's hands today, I won't be unconvinced. After all, one slacked off in my cultivation." Ling's face was cold. In the past, his long hair was neatly tied up. However, today, he let his long hair fall behind his back and tied it briefly. This made him, who used to look cold and handsome, appear more elegant. The Lan family was also rich in handsome men. However, Yingxue felt she had to give her all against this handsome man today. Undoubtedly, she couldn't match Ling's strength. But Ling didn't kill her. He knocked her down and placed the knife at her neck. Suddenly, Ling's breathing quickened as he said, "You should leave quickly." Although he didn't immediately stand up and ask Yingxue to get up, he sheathed his blade and didn't press Yingxue any further. He refrained from causing her more harm. "Ling, why? You wanted to kill me, and now you want to let me go. What decree did the Emperor give you?" Yingxue's bright eyes were filled with doubt. She could understand why the Emperor wanted her dead. He didn't want her to become a part of Yihan's power, so he ordered Ling to kill her. However, he had already held her life in his hands, yet he let her go so easily. Ling was captivated by her aura. He took a few more breaths before he got up and helped her up. She handed her hand over in trust. When he held it in his palm, Ling's heart beat fiercely. He looked at the soft hand in his and suddenly felt no regrets. He sheathed his saber and walked into the depths of the palace. Yingxue gazed at his elegant back and could still hear his voice. He said, "Yingxue, take care." He had traded his life for hers, and he hoped her future would be filled with sunshine. Just like what she had given him back then. Yingxue didn't have time to dwell on these thoughts. While Ling might let her go, it didn't guarantee the same from the next person who might appear. She scooped up Yurou's lifeless body and rushed towards the palace gate as fast as she could. Yihan didn't wait for her at the palace gate. However, when she found herself surrounded by imperial guards, Yihan ordered them to retreat. "Stand down." Qing, leading the imperial guards, spoke with a cold expression. "This has nothing to do with imperial uncle. Yingxue attempted to assassinate my mother. Today, I will capture her and punish her." Chapter 492, You Deserve It. Seventh Prince is indeed clever. Do you think one would carry a corpse to the remote cold palace just to assassinate your high and mighty mother? Yingxue rolled her eyes. The fact that anyone could believe such logic made her wonder about the upbringing of seventh prince, Qing. Yingxue. Flo, dare you say that? Ruer, Qing stared at the emaciated body carried by Yingxue, his eyes stinging. Ruer is your biological sister, and you can still be so ruthless to her. Yingxue, you wicked woman. I didn't kill her. If you want to know about Yurou's death, you should ask the Empress, Yingxue replied with an enigmatic look in her eyes. Previously, she had always suspected that Yurou had the support of Wu Dao, allowing her to evade the people from her Marquis manor and appear in crucial positions. However, it was truly unusual for the Empress to arrive today. And Ling, who intercepted her on the way but let her go. The matters in the palace were like a pile of tangled threads that couldn't be cut and were chaotic. If you dare to touch her, I will kill you. Yihan stood in front of Yingxue. He didn't care about what she had done, but he was like a guardian god, making everyone else fear Yingxue. Qing narrowed his eyes. He couldn't let the two of them escape from the palace today. Hence, he started fighting Yihan. Yihan had a bloodthirsty disorder that had been difficult to treat for many years. He wanted to provoke him into an attack so that he would have a reason to arrest him openly. However, Yihan didn't target anyone else. When Yuwen attacked him, Yihan snatched his sword, broke his leg, grabbed him, and ordered the imperial guards to force him in front of Yuwen. Yuwen was discussing some matters with Wu Dao. The noise in the outer hall forced him to go out and check. Qing was caught by Yihan. Upon seeing this, Yuwen immediately asked, "Ninth brother, release him. Why are you treating Yi like this?" Yihan let go, but Qing screamed at his feet. "This is what he deserves," Yihan said coldly. "He attacked me, his imperial uncle." Yuwen sat on the dragon throne, and the Empress followed suit to create chaos. Looking at Yurou's shriveled corpse, he immediately knew one of the things he had discussed with Wu Dao. He frowned and pointed at Yingxue. "You poisoned your sister and insulted the Empress in the palace. What crime do you deserve?" "Emperor, I didn't do it." Yingxue pointed at the Empress. "I would like to ask your majesty." Yurou dragged me to the side of the cold palace to speak. How did the Empress seem to know beforehand? Yurou had just breathed her last, and she brought people in, wanting to kill me without any explanation. Could it be that she and Yurou had not discussed this beforehand to frame me? Nonsense. Who would use their life to frame others? Isn't your sister's life a life? Would she be so stupid as to use her death to frame you? Yingxue, you're twisting black and white. The Empress roared. Whether it's twisting black and white or not, a verification will reveal the truth. After the palace banquet, a stranger entered the Empress harem. One can bring him in for questioning. Yihan exuded a powerful aura. The emperor sitting on the dragon throne was not him, but he had more of an emperor's aura than Yuwen. The Empress' face turned pale. The harem was her territory, yet Yihan knew exactly when someone had entered her palace. She bit her lower lip tightly and did not dare to speak. Yuwen was even more displeased. The Empress was not wrong in this matter. She was in the harem. Yurou died in the harem. She exercised her authority as the Empress and punished Yingxue as a warning to others. Chapter 493, Protect her, be unreasonable, Emperor. I did not kill Yurou. If your highness doubts it, I can prove it to your highness. Yingxue bowed. Yuwen's face turned iron gray. Recalling his conversation with Wu Dao, he spoke coldly, one will see how you prove it. In front of everyone, Yingxue pulled back the sleeves and collar of Yurou. Emperor, the wounds on her skin are visible, it was caused by excessive blood loss. However, I did not drain all the blood from her body. At that time, she collided with me and hit the wall, resulting in the head injury. She was covered in blood. Look at the bloodstains on Miss Sue's clothes. Isn't it enough evidence of someone dying from blood loss? An old, raspy voice echoed, and Su Yingxue looked up to see Wu Dao emerging from the side hall. She raised her lips slightly. The sir is correct. There is indeed a lot of blood on her, and it hasn't dried yet. Su Yingxue squatted down, examining Su Yurou's blood-soaked attire. Although she had some of Su Yurou's blood on herself, she smelled it and said, "The blood on Su Yurou's body is not hers. It's a blood bag she prepared in advance to conceal her death from excessive blood loss." All of this could not have been a scheme by Su Yurou. She did not have such a clever mind. Su Yingxue couldn't help but glance at Wu Dao. Wu Dao remained as cold as ever. If you say it's not Ruer's blood, then it's not. Su Yingxue, on what basis do you make such baseless remarks? Do you have the ability to prove it? Chu Qingye clutched his chest as he stood up, feeling the pain of Su Yurou's death and harboring even more hatred towards Su Yingxue. This woman he could only yearn for. If she can prove it, all of you who falsely accused her must kneel and apologize to her. Chu Yihan declared. His voice was soft but carried considerable weight. Chu Mingyuan was included among the people he mentioned. Chu Mingyuan snorted. Making an emperor like him apologize was impossible. Chu Qingye braved himself. She is the one who harmed Ruer. That's an indisputable fact. All right, if I can prove it, Seventh Prince and Your Majesty, please apologize to me. After all, falsely accusing me is not something you can afford. Su Yingxue's eyes flashed with a fierce light. The Empress also took a gamble. Seeing Wu Dao standing confidently, she believed there would be no flaws, and Su Yingxue would not succeed. She said hatefully, "If you can prove it, I will personally apologize to you." Good. Su Yingxue looked at Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan waved his hand, and the people in the palace were at her disposal. She had prepared some tools, silver needles, clean water, and some glass slides, all developed during her study of her mother's medical skills. She drew blood from Su Yurou's body, squeezed blood from her clothes, and dripped it onto a glass slide. Just as she was about to prick her finger to take 2 drops of blood, Chu Yihan quickly stopped her. "What are you doing?" "Blood test." "Don't worry, Your Highness. It's just 2 drops of blood. I'll be fine," Su Yingxue said softly and gently. "Use mine." Chu Yihan extended his hand, stopping her from using her blood. Su Yingxue was touched by his heartwarming action. "Even though it's just blood, Your Highness' blood is much more precious than mine." Given Chu Yihan's high status, it was likely that no one had dared to take his blood before. "Whether you use my blood or not, if you don't want to, I won't let you do it." Chapter 494. By design, Chu Yihan was very reasonable when discussing matters, but when it came to protecting her, he was never reasonable. Su Yingxue squeezed Chu Yihan's hand and pouted. "All right, I'll feed Your Highness tonight since one hurt Your Highness' hand." The sharp in Chu Yihan's eyes softened instantly as if it had met warm sunlight. Okay. After resolving the matter, he would hold her in his arms and let her feed him mouthful by mouthful. Su Yingxue took 2 drops of Chu Yihan's blood and placed them on the glass. She brought it in front of Chu Mingyuan and explained to him after he saw it clearly, "These are 2 drops of Your Highness' blood. If they confuse, it means they have the same blood type." She took another set and placed it in front of Chu Mingyuan. "These are the bloodstains on Su Yurou's body and clothes. They are clumped together and can't fuse, which means they are not of the same blood type. A person's blood can naturally fuse with their blood. If it can't fuse, it's not the same person's blood. So, Your Highness, Su Yuru's body has the blood of two people. Her excessive loss of blood was not caused by me, nor was it caused by her hitting the wall. That was someone who did it on purpose. Su Yingxue intentionally emphasized each word. She could tell that the needle marks on Su Yuru's body were caused by the syringe she had snatched from Han Yuwen. Someone had taken her blood. However, only Han Yuwen knew how to draw blood and understood this. Han Yuwen was called Wu Dao teacher. Su Yuru's death was related to the two of them. Chu Mingyuan had seen Long Shuli talk about medical skills in front of him, so he didn't think Su Yingxue's words were a fantasy. The killing intent in his eyes became even stronger. However, it was covered up in an instant. Chu Mingyuan was unwilling, but he had to admit that Su Yuru's death was not caused by Su Yingxue. Chu Qingye did not believe it. Father, you can't believe Su Yingxue's one-sided story. She hated Ruer and killed her. She's still trying to force excuses. Yes. Emperor, this demoness Su Yingxue used her medical skills to harm people. She has a venomous heart. Emperor must not let her off. The Empress angrily pointed at Su Yingxue. How could she accept this? She had repeatedly failed to frame Su Yingxue, and now she wanted her, the Empress, to apologize to her. Empress, you and the seventh prince don't have to twist the truth just because you don't want to apologize. After all, your Highness hasn't settled the score with you for rushing to the cold palace so quickly. Su Yingxue smiled innocently, but it made the Empress' heart tremble violently. She did not dare to look at Chu Mingyuan, her husband. She knew that Chu Mingyuan would never stand on her side. However, it was fine if she was wronged, but how could she let her year apologize to this woman, Su Yingxue? Since the Empress doesn't want to apologize, one will bring her here. Chu Yihan raised his hand. This action made the Empress' heart tremble with fear. No, no, no. No. One apologize. One misunderstood Su Yingxue. I'm sorry. The Empress bit her lip. Every word she said was filled with humiliation. After she finished speaking, she bit her lips. The smell of blood spread in her mouth, and her eyes turned red from embarrassment. You. Chu Yihan's gaze shifted to Chu Qingye. I won't. Chu Qingye had been trampled on by Chu Yihan many times, and he would never lower his head today. The Empress looked at Su Yingxue angrily. Su Yingxue, what else do you want? One have already apologized to you, but you still won't let Year off. Chapter 495, He had to apologize. Yes, I refuse. Su Yingxue tilted her head. Everyone must take responsibility for their actions. Your Highness and your Majesty have wrongly accused me. Naturally, both the Empress and your Highness must apologize to me. Su Yingxue, you go too far. The Empress had never experienced such humiliation. For the sake of Chu Qingye, she knelt in front of Chu Mingyuan once again. Emperor, please spare Year. Year is your most valued prince. How can he apologize to Su Yingxue? Let me, his mother, bear the responsibility for him. Shut up. Chu Mingyuan impatiently furrowed his brow. Didn't he feel humiliated? If it weren't for Chu Yihan's military power, he would have wanted to kill him now. And he wanted his son to apologize to his woman. What right did she have? If Imperial Brother is unwilling, I don't mind standing in for Imperial Brother and teaching my nephew, who doesn't know how to apologize. Chu Yihan exuded a terrifying chill. Every word he spoke carried an intense pressure. Chu Mingyuan was filled with hatred, and Chu Qingye even more so. Unable to control himself, Chu Qingye drew his sword and charged at Chu Yihan. Year. Chu Mingyuan was shocked. Chu Qingye was no match for Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan unsheathed his sword, clashing with Chu Qingye's blade. Chu Qingye's blade immediately broke, and Chu Yihan's sword was too fast to be seen clearly. It had already severed Chu Qingye's blade, causing Chu Qingye's hand to bleed from the shock. His thumb and forefinger were numb, and a strong numbness spread from his palm to his entire arm. He fell to the ground, screaming, "Ah! Year! Year!" Chu Mingyuan and the Empress exclaimed. The Empress quickly rushed to Chu Qingye and shouted, "If you want to kill, kill me first." Chu Yihan, that's enough. Year has already been taught a lesson by you. There's no need to force him anymore. Chu Mingyuan stood up, angrily shouting. Today, his face as the emperor had been completely ruined by Chu Yihan. He hasn't apologized yet. Chu Yihan sheathed his sword. He faced others with a chilling indifference. Yingxue, I'm sorry. Chu Qingye lay in the empress' arms, spitting out blood. The hatred in his eyes made it hard for him to see the scene before him. But he knew that his impulsiveness had brought him no benefits. If he didn't apologize, Chu Yihan wouldn't even bat an eye if he killed him. But he couldn't die yet. If he died, no one would avenge him against Chu Yihan and Yingxue. The seventh prince can still be saved. Just don't randomly accuse others in the future. Yingxue graciously accepted the apology. Afterward, Chu Qingye was taken to the empress for treatment. Chu Mingyuan had a murderous expression, but he had no choice but to wave them out of the palace. Yingxue thought of the person she had neglected. She had just wanted to look for Wu Dao, but she did not know when Wu Dao had disappeared. She asked Chu Yihan, "Your Highness, have you seen Wu Dao?" Chu Yihan's eyes darkened. "He left when you were done comparing the bloodstains. That's all." Yingxue was in disbelief. "I have a lot of doubts about him. Your Highness, one want to investigate this person. The Wu Dao that Lu Shulan mentioned, Su Yuru's death, and his plan today," her mind was filled with mysteries. The only one who could solve these mysteries was Wu Dao. But he had disappeared. "If possible, I don't want you to come into contact with him." Chu Yihan brought her back to the carriage of the Marquis Manor. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.